Foreign Minister S Jaishankar detailed India's concerns about terror for the first time since the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan, naming specific groups in another first. He said heightened activities of the proscribed Haqqani network justify growing anxiety in an address to the United Nations Security Council in New York.
Events unfolding in Afghanistan have naturally enhanced global concerns about their implications for both regional and international security. The heightened activities of the proscribed Haqqani network justifies this growing anxiety. Whether it is in Afghanistan or against India, groups like Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed continue to operate with both impunity and encouragement. And when we see state hospitality being extended to those with innocents' bloods on their hand, we should never lack the courage to call out this doublespeak.
And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken tweeted this morning, United States government official, a productive call with Dr. Jaishankar today about Afghanistan. We agreed to continue our close coordination. Welcome back. Now, Union Home Minister Amit Shah held a meeting at his home on Thursday evening to discuss the next year's assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. Besides the state chief minister Yogi Adityanath, the meeting was attended by BJP chief JP Nadda, state BJP chief Swatantra Dev Singh and organization general secretary Sunil Bansal. Sources say besides candidates for the legislative council, the leaders discussed the expansion of Yogi Adityanath's cabinet and the party organization in UP. Emphasis was also laid on taking allies along at the meeting, which went on for around 3.5 hours. All of these are hot button topics for the party in view of the murmurs against the chief minister, both within the party as the state elections draw near. Earlier this year, sources said the party was concerned over feedback that it had received from various quarters, indicating the chief minister's inability to take everyone along. For long, allies have been critical of the chief minister's lack of accessibility to MPs and MLAs. The government's handling of the COVID pandemic, which many feared has deeply upset the electorate, also brought the differences out in the open. The party finally reached out to allies, that's Apna Dal, Nishad Samaj, and gave a central ministry berth to the Apna Dal. A group of 74 former bureaucrats and police officers also wrote an open letter alleging a complete breakdown of governance and blatant violation of the rule of law in the state. Congress President Sonia Gandhi's virtual meeting with opposition leaders including Mamata Banerjee and Uddhav Thackeray will be held today at 4:30. The meeting is aimed at consolidating the unity that the opposition displayed in taking on the government in parliament. Besides the chief ministers of Bengal and Maharashtra, NCP chief Sharad Pawar, Tamil Nadu chief minister M.K. Stalin and Jharkhand chief minister Hemant Soren have also been invited to the meeting. Over 15 opposition parties had put up a united front in parliament in the recent monsoon session over issues like the Pegasus snooping scandal, the rising fuel prices and farmers' agitation over the 3 central laws. Welcome back. Now, when Kabul fell into Taliban hands on Monday, there was a desperate scramble at the airport to get out from chaos on the tarmac, to some Afghans actually clinging to a US military plane and then falling to their deaths. Here's a look at who those men were.
At the beginning of the week, the world watched with horror a video of a group of Afghans desperate to escape their country's takeover by the Taliban, clinging to the sides of a US military plane as it took off from Kabul airport. Some of these men even filmed their dangerous takeoff in selfie mode. We watched with even greater horror as some of those men were captured in another viral video, falling from the plane as it ascended ever higher. In a feat of astonishing journalism, the Scroll.in reporter Vijeta Lalwani, reporting from Delhi, managed to trace the stories of at least 2 of those men who fell to their death by locating the Delhi-based relative of Wali Salek, a man in Kabul on whose house the men had actually fallen. Our reporter Saurabh Shukla followed up, visiting the house in Delhi of a travel agent, Shapur Wali Salek is Shapur's Kabul-based uncle, who shared pictures of the terrible tragedy. Now, the stories of the men told by Scroll and separately by the Afghan media speak to the nightmarish human tragedy of Afghans escaping the Taliban regime. According to Scroll, both are young men. One of them, Shafiullah Hotak, appeared to be aged between 25 to 27 years. The second man has been identified as Fida Muhammad, who hailed from Pagman, a town near Kabul. This is Fida Muhammad, whose photo and story has been separately reported by the Afghan news agency Pajwak, which confirmed his identity by speaking to his family. The Pajwak report says that Fida was a doctor, this is all according to his father, was a doctor working at a private hospital in Kabul's Shahid Square. It quotes his father, Payenda Muhammad, who said Fida was his first child and had studied hard at school and university, but had fallen into debt because he spent a lot of money on his wedding. His father said that the second day of the Taliban's arrival, Fida left without telling his family. They only came to know of his death when someone traced them through a phone that was found in Fida's pocket. When the father reached the location, he found that Fida was dead. According to France 24, a young Afghan footballer, Zaki Anwari, was another casualty of that terrifying flight of desperation. A Facebook page about the Afghan national football team announced Zaki Anwari's death. And according to France 24, the news was confirmed by the Afghan government sports directorate a day later. Several users on social media posted tributes to Anwari on their feeds. Now, what makes this story even more heartbreaking is that even today, leaving Kabul airport has turned into a nightmare, with thousands of people negotiating barbed wire and barricades, the Taliban on one side and NATO troops on the other. Consider these multiple videos from social media just in the past 24 hours. People, to escape the Taliban, they're passing children forward. Afghan women are crying at Kabul airport, begging forces to let them in. Armed men are seen firing shots outside the Kabul airport in the presence of civilians and children. Now, ironically, that's how many Afghans spent their Independence Day, which is today. Many of them were also out taking out scattered marches across the country, carrying the Afghan flag. Some of those marches came under fire by the Taliban. There are unconfirmed reports of injuries and deaths. So that on one side, the fear of death and reprisals by the Taliban, and on the other, you try to go to the airport, and then we see what happened. Now, earlier, as I mentioned, our colleague Saurabh Shukla spoke to Shapur Zarifi, who is of course based here in Delhi, who dialed his cousin Wali Salek in Kabul to try to reconstruct the terrible story of the men who fell from the sky on Wali Salek's roof. Let's listen.
उस रात क्या आवाज, उस दोपहर क्या आवाज आई?
बोल रहा जैसे कोई टाटा गाड़ी जो होता है, बड़ा गाड़ी ट्रक, उसका टायर जब फट जाता है, इसी तरह एक आवाज हो गया था. उस टाइम जब मैं सो रहा था, इसी तरह आवाज हो गया.
उस समय सो रहे थे ये?
लेट के फेसबुक चेक कर रहा था. अच्छा, तो उसको इतनी तेज आवाज आई जैसे लगी कोई टायर फट गया. हाँ, बहुत बुरी आवाज.
तो फिर ये इन्होंने क्या किया? छत पे गए, इन्होंने क्या देखा?
हम बोल रहे उसके बाद मैं निकल के छत पे गया। इनका घर 3 मंजिल है, तीसरा मंजिल पे गया छत पे देखा कि 2 बॉडी गिर गया है उधर। तो इसके पीछे में इसका वाइफ और इसका बेटी भी आया, तो इसका बेटी बेहोश भी हो गया, तो वापस उन दोनों के ले
दोनों जो 2 लोग हवा से गिरे, जहाज से वो इनकी छत पे गिरे, उन्होंने देखा कि 2 डेड बॉडीज पड़ी इनकी छत पे।
हाँ, जब इसने ऊपर गया देख लिया कि 2 डेड बॉडी गिरा हुआ है इसके छत पे,
और इसकी बेटी बेहोश हो गई देख के, खून वगैरह था
इसका वाइफ। हाँ, उसके बेटी बहुत शौकी हो गया था और उसके वाइफ ने भी बेहोश हो गया था। तो फिर उसके बाद क्योंकि ये सोच रहा था कि ये कहाँ से आया, कैसे इधर गिर गया, तो बोल रहा जब मैंने उनको ले गया नीचे, तो हमारे जो नाइबर है, पड़ोसी हैं, उन लोगों ने बोला कि ये प्लेन से गिर गया है।
अच्छा, उन्होंने नेबर्स ने देखा होगा कि ये छत पे
गिरने के टाइम पे उसने देखा था
कि ये उनकी छत पे गिरे। इनकी घर को नुकसान हुआ जब छत पे गिरे। इन्होंने बताया इतनी बहुत ज्यादा आवाज आई, और ये वीडियो सबने देखा है कि आसमान से 2 लड़के गिर रहे हैं हवाई जहाज अमेरिका के। तो क्या घर में नुकसान हुआ है इनके?
ज्यादा नहीं, थोड़ा सा नुकसान हो गया। जैसे उसका सीमेंट है जो डिजाइन किया है छत को घर के अंदर की तरफ से, उसका थोड़ा टुकड़ा प्लास्टर गिरा हुआ है, थोड़ा नुकसान हो गया, ज्यादा नहीं।
Allegations of rape, murder and crimes against women after the Bengal elections will be probed by the CBI. The Calcutta High Court has said the other criminal cases related to post-poll violence will be investigated by a special Bengal police team. The court will track the SIT's progress, and both teams have been directed to submit their reports in 6 weeks' time.
Twin probes into post-poll violence in Bengal. The most heinous crimes, murders, rapes and attempted rapes will be probed by the CBI, says Calcutta High Court. Other cases of arson, loot, ransack will go to a special investigation team of 3 senior Bengal police officers. Both CBI and the SIT will submit status reports in 6 weeks of 4th October. For the BJP, still smarting from the assembly poll defeat, the order is validation of its claims of Trinamool's post-poll violence against its workers.
I wished कि सत्य की जीत हो, and सत्य की जीत हुई है, so it's सत्यमेव जयते.
CBI and SIT?
Yes, that was the requirement, because see, an SIT cannot probe into offences like rape and heinous crimes which have taken place in West Bengal. So in order to probe into that, CBI was required.
हाई कोर्ट ने जो जजमेंट दिया है, सच में बंगाल के इतिहास में एक ऐतिहासिक जजमेंट माना जाए। कानून व्यवस्था चरमरा गया है, पूरा देश सन्न हो गया है इस प्रकार घटना सुन करके, लेकिन सरकार मानने के लिए तैयार नहीं है।
Mamata Banerjee's government will most likely go to Supreme Court.
I am displeased with the High Court judgment. We are political people. We have won in the People's Court. BJP has gone to the High Court. So we will not be deterred by the High Court.
The Election Commission has got a clean chit. Mamata Banerjee had argued that post-poll violence, if any, took place under the EC's watch, not hers. The court did not agree with that. The NHRC got a slap on the wrist, some judges stating on record it had exceeded its brief in the opinions it included in its fact-finding report. But NHRC's recommendations for a CBI and SIT probe were accepted. With S Jaishankar, Monideepa Banerjee, NDTV.
Karvi stockbroking chairman and managing director C. Parthasarathy was arrested for cheating and misuse of clients' funds. The Hyderabad police have said the founder of the financial services company was taken into custody following a complaint by the IndusInd Bank alleging that his firm had defaulted on a 137 crore loan.
C. Parthasarathy, chairman and managing director of Hyderabad-based Karvi stockbroking, arrested by the Hyderabad police on Thursday on a complaint by IndusInd Bank of cheating to the tune of 137 crore rupees.
बेसिक कंप्लेंट ये था कि कार्वी स्टॉक ब्रोकिंग लिमिटेड ने कस्टमर्स के शेयर्स को अपना शेयर्स बता के बैंक को कोलैटरल के जैसा प्लेज करके उसके अगेंस्ट 130 ऑड करोड़ का लोन लिया था. इस पे HDFC बैंक 2 FIRs दिए हैं.
HDFC Bank has also filed 2 cases alleging fraud of nearly 350 crore rupees. Karvi Stockbrokers was barred by SEBI in 2020 from trading on the NSE and BSE after a probe found gross violations, including fraudulently pledging client shares to raise loans, transfer the funds to subsidiary companies and default. Karvi has been one of the oldest and high-profile stockbroking firms in this part of the country. Investigators say they had an estimated 2 lakh clients. With SEBI's intervention, some of those clients have got back their money. Demat accounts were also transferred to other firms, but several other clients could still be awaiting the return of their investment. In Hyderabad, with camera person Nagraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Welcome back. Entertainment news now. And Hollywood actor Rebecca Ferguson plays the lead in Reminiscence opposite Hugh Jackman. In an exclusive chat with NDTV's Rohit Khilnani, the actress spoke about her role in this sci-fi film and her co-actor.
Hi, my name is Rohit Khilnani. I'm from NDTV in India.
Hi.
Hi, Rebecca. Good to see you. What a very interesting character in this film. Were you more sold to the character, the way it's written, or the concept of the film at large?
Oh, what a good question. It's hard to like one more over the other. There's a reason why I signed on to do the film. With the script and the vision of the film, but I think it turned out very well. But for me, I guess the process was all of it. It was reading it and creating and developing it. But she's an amazing character.
She's a beautiful character. And also, if you could go back, Rebecca, in your past and just see yourself, what part of your life would you like to just sit and observe?
I'm getting this question a lot. I think I'm going to have to start creating an answer. Do you have one you can give me? Would you go to childhood? Or would you go to your first job? What would you do?
Childhood should be fun just to observe, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, maybe or maybe a memory I can't remember.
Okay, that's interesting. What is Hugh Jackman like to work with as a co-actor?
He is fun. He is naughty. He's extremely professional. He knows exactly how to balance the art of professionalism, but also the light-heartedness that is needed, I believe.
Right. I'll just turn the other question around and ask you, if you could put someone else in that chamber and watch their past, who would you put in that chamber?
Maybe you, prepping for interviews.
And you could see the questions I'm writing before the interview.
And finally, as a nation, we see a huge reduction of child deaths, with under 5 deaths falling below the 1 million mark for the first time last year. However, millions of children are still dying, and malnutrition in children under 5 years of age continues to be among the highest in the world. Initiatives like Vacated, Reach Each Child in Maharashtra's Amravati district is a unique way to help India's children in this nutrition crisis.
33% of children in our country are underweight. 1 in every 4 child is malnourished. But by addressing the challenge, we can make a difference. Gayatri's mother took her daughter to the NRC and is extremely happy with the outcome.
One patient is there, Gayatri Dhande. She is a 10 months child. जब वो बच्ची आई तो she had got loose motions, vomiting, and as well as she has malnutrition. Her weight was 6 kg, 400 grams. So she required both treatment as well as nutritional rehabilitation. But उनके पेरेंट्स तैयार ही नहीं थे उसको एडमिट करने के लिए. सबसे पहले तो वो नहीं चाहते थे कि हमारा बच्चा एडमिट हो. उन्होंने सीधा बोल दिया कि हमारा बच्चा है, हम जो होगा देखेंगे, आप प्लीज़ बॉदर ना करें.
मेरा बच्चा बहुत पहले सीरियस ही था, यहाँ पर भर्ती हुआ कि बहुत अच्छा हो गया. मेरा बच्चा पहले नाक से दूध पीता था, अब मुँह से पीने लग गया, खेलने कूदने लग गया. अच्छा है. यहाँ पर आने का क्या को मना कर रहे हैं. इन लोग को इंजेक्शन लगातार करके उन लोग नहीं आने दे रहा था मेरे को, लेकिन मैं आ गया. अच्छा सुविधा है, टेबल पर अच्छा खाना मिलता, फिर दूध भी अच्छा मिलता। अभी मेरा बेटी पहले बहुत सीरियस ही था, अभी अच्छा दिखने लग गया पहले से। अभी उसका वजन ही अच्छा बढ़ गया, पहले बहुत कम था।
तो ये अभी धीरे धीरे अपने स्टडी लेवल पे आ गई है और अगर हमारे पास 10 डेज रहेगी तो उसका वजन हम बढ़ा भी देंगे विद अवर डाइट एंड और प्रोटोकॉल।
Now, an NDTV exclusive, NDTV has learned that the Taliban didn't want India to vacate the embassy. Remember, the Indian embassy in Kabul was vacated, and it took a lot of effort and coordination, even with the US, to get all our staff, all the ITBP soldiers and the ambassador out from Kabul and on a flight. And now it seems that the Taliban was reluctant and didn't want them to vacate. But fortunately, that message came later. Let's go across to Uma for more on this. Uma, give us the details.
जी गार्गी, देखिए इवैक्यूएशन के ठीक पहले तालिबान के दोहा ऑफिस की तरफ से एक अनौपचारिक तौर पे संदेश आया था कि भारत जो है वो अपने राजनयिकों को काबुल दूतावास से वापस न बुलाए। इसका सीधा मतलब ये है कि तालिबान एक तरह से आउटरीच करने की कोशिश कर रहा था और वो चाहता था कि जो भारतीय राजनयिक हैं वहां पे बने रहें। जो दोहा में जो तालिबान का राजनीतिक ऑफिस है उसके जो प्रमुख हैं स्टैनिक जई, उनकी तरफ से ये अनौपचारिक संदेश आया था और उसमें ये भरोसा देने की कोशिश की गई थी कि भारत को अगर ये चिंता है कि काबुल दूतावास के आसपास जो लश्कर तैयबा, लश्कर जंगवी या जैश मोहम्मद या फिर हक्कानी गुट के लोग हैं जो जिनसे भारत को खतरा हो सकता है, तो ऐसी बात नहीं है। तो इस तरह का आश्वासन देने की कोशिश की गई थी, लेकिन तालिबान के इतिहास को देखते हुए उनकी बातों पे भरोसा करने का कोई मतलब नहीं था और उस पर भरोसा नहीं किया गया और भारत ने अपने राजनयिकों को, अपने स्टाफ को वापस वहां से विशेष विमान के जरिए बुला लिया। लेकिन ये पूरा मामला ये दिखाता है कि किस तरह से तालिबान जो एक डेस्परेशन में, एक डेस्परेट तरीके से दुनिया के अलग अलग देशों में आउटरीच करने की कोशिश कर रहा है और अपने दोहा के जो राजनीतिक ऑफिस है उसका इस्तेमाल कर रहा है और इस जरिए भारत को भी संदेश भेजा गया। स्टैनिक जई के बारे में आपको थोड़ा बताऊं गार्गी, तो वो अफगान आर्मी में पहले थे। भारत में उन्होंने 1982 में यहाँ पे एक ट्रेनिंग भी किया था, तकरीबन 18 महीने यहाँ पर रहे थे और उनके अच्छे संपर्क सूत्र हैं इस तरफ भी और काबुल में भी। तो जाहिर सी बात है कि इस अनुरोध के जरिए एक भारत से एक आगे चलकर मान्यता हासिल करने की कोशिश भी हो सकती है। हालांकि भारत की अभी की जो स्थिति है, जो सूत्र के मुताबिक हमें जानकारी मिली है कि वेट एंड वॉच की पॉलिसी है। तालिबानी सरकार जब फॉर्मेशन होगा तो मान्यता देने ना देने की बात की है और भारत ये देखेगा कि दुनिया के दूसरे लोकतांत्रिक देश जो हैं उनका रवैया क्या होता है, उसके आधार पे अपना जो रुख है वो तय करेगा। लेकिन दोहा के ऑफिस से इस तरह से एक अनुरोध आना अपने आप में एक बड़ी बात है गार्गी।
ऑलराइट, एंड उमा, जो वजह है आप कह रहे हैं इमेज की वजह से तालिबान चाहती थी कि इंडियन एम्बेसी खाली ना हो, कि इंडियंस वहां से जाए नहीं, बिकॉज हम जानते हैं कि चाइना एंड रशिया की एम्बेसीज अभी तक हैं काबुल में, तो अपनी इमेज की वजह से वो चाहते थे कि इंडिया की भी एम्बेसी वहीं बनी रहे।
जी बिल्कुल, देखिए टर्की हो, चाइना हो, पाकिस्तान हो, इन सब ने अपनी एम्बेसी नहीं बंद करने का, रूस हो, इन सबों ने अपनी एम्बेसी नहीं बंद करने का फैसला किया है। तालिबान की कोशिश ये हुई कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा देश जो हैं वो अपनी एम्बेसीज जो हैं वहां पे चलाती रहें, क्योंकि उनको एक आगे चलकर अपनी सरकार बनाना है, दुनिया के साथ संपर्क में रहना है। और इसीलिए आपने देखा होगा कि बार बार तालिबानी प्रवक्ता की तरफ से ये मैसेज भी दिया जा रहा है कि जो वहां पे एम्बेसीज हैं, जो विदेशी राजनयिक हैं, उन सबों को कोई खतरा नहीं है, किसी तरह का खतरा नहीं उनको पहुंचने दिया जाएगा, उनकी पूरी सुरक्षा की जाएगी। तो तालिबान एक बदला हुआ इमेज अपना दिखाने की कोशिश में है और वो पॉलिटिकली आउटरीच करने की भी कोशिश कर रहा है ताकि तालिबान की सरकार को आगे चलकर मान्यता मिलने में थोड़ी सहूलियत हो। हालांकि ये डिपेंड करेगा, जैसा कि अमेरिका जैसे देशों ने भी कहा है कि ये डिपेंड करेगा इस बात पे कि तालिबान की सरकार किस तरीके से आगे चलती है, उसके एक्शंस क्या होते हैं मानवाधिकार को लेकर, महिलाओं के अधिकार को लेकर, उसके ऊपर ये डिपेंड करेगा। लेकिन तालिबान अपनी तरफ से आउटरीच करने की कोशिश लगातार कर रहा है और इसी सिलसिले में भारत को भी अनौपचारिक तौर पर संदेश भेजा गया था।
All right, Uma, thanks so much for joining us with those details. So, Uma Shankar there breaking that story that there was an outreach from the Taliban to India. They didn't want the Indian embassy vacated in Kabul. The Taliban wanted Indian diplomats to remain there to boost their image. Remember, China and Russia, Turkey have all kept their embassies functioning. The Taliban, in fact, sent a message from their Qatar political office, and Taliban's message came before the Indians were evacuated from the embassy, because remember, it took some effort to get the Indians out of that embassy. We did face some pushback from the Taliban when we wanted to vacate the embassy. There was some help from the Americans also to finally, get the Indians on that flight, the ambassador, all the staff, as well as the ITBP. Taliban's political office chief Sheikh Mohammad Abbas Stanikzai, as Uma was telling us, sent this message via contacts in Kabul and Delhi. So an important outreach effort in a sense by the Taliban there. Welcome back. Jammu and Kashmir police announced the arrest of 4 separatist leaders, including some constituents of the Hurriyat Conference, for selling MBBS seats in Pakistan to Kashmiri students and using the money to support and fund terrorism.
A police crackdown on separatists accused of selling MBBS seats in Pakistan to Kashmiri students. 4 separatists have been arrested during multiple raids by the intelligence wing of the Jammu and Kashmir police. The money was allegedly used to fund and support militancy in the valley.
जो लोग जहां से हुर्रियत के चैनल से सीट्स प्रोक्योर करके पाकिस्तान में पढ़ने के लिए खासतौर पे MBBS की जो सीट्स के लिए गए, उसके दौरान जो पैसे की कलेक्शन हुई और हुर्रियत के जरिए से, हुर्रियत के चैनल से जो टेररिज्म को फंड करने के लिए इस्तेमाल हुआ, 80 के करीब ऐसे केसेस हैं MBBS के जो अभी तक तफ्तीश ने.
One of the arrested separatists is Zafar Akbar Bhatt, a former Hizbul Mujahideen commander who was part of peace talks with the NDA government in 2000. The police are investigating 80 cases at the moment where students in Kashmir would be sold MBBS seats in Pakistan. Police say separatists were taking 10 to 12 lakh rupees from parents. Investigations began after some of the students who had gone to Pakistan on student visas returned back as terrorists. These cases have hit genuine students after the government refused to clear travel of at least 100 students.
एक बार फिर देश के गृह मंत्री अमित शाह, हम केंद्र शासित प्रदेश के राज्यपाल मनोज सिन्हा से ह्यूमैनिटेरियन ग्राउंड्स पर रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं कि जो 100 के आसपास जो स्टूडेंट्स कश्मीर में फंसे, जिनका प्रेशियस एकेडमिक इस वक्त जो स्टेक पे है, हालांकि ऐसे भी बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स हैं जिनके एग्जाम्स मिस हो गए.
Police say it was a well-organized syndicate in the separate scam that was selling MBBS seats in Pakistan to Kashmiri students for last several years. While 4 people have been arrested, investigations are underway and more arrests are expected in coming days. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
Time for a break. Coming up on the other side, details of a meeting that was held at the Home Minister's residence on the UP elections. Welcome back. Let's get you the latest COVID data released by the Health Ministry, and 36,571 cases have been reported in the last 24 hours. That's up from yesterday, and 57.22 crore vaccine doses have been administered under the nationwide vaccination drive. Active cases account for 1.12% of the total cases, and the active cases are the lowest since March 2020. India's active caseload stands at 3,63,605. That's the lowest in 150 days. Now for our special campaign, Vaccinate India, in partnership with Google, where we bring you questions that are frequently asked about COVID and about vaccines. And joining us to answer those questions, we have Dr. Suranjit Chatterjee, Senior Consultant, Internal Medicine, Indraprasth Apollo Hospital. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us on this campaign. And one of the questions that people do keep looking up is, are COVID vaccines safe?
Oh, it's very safe. We have all used vaccines, even in this country. We have no documented evidence of real side effects to that. Once in a while, people do have minor symptoms of fever, body ache, and all these things, which is expected with any vaccine. Yes, there have been sometimes cases of people coming with a stroke and with a heart attack, people, they all attributed to the vaccine, but we haven't found any conclusive evidence to that effect. And all in our hospital or different hospitals, we have all used vaccines. None of us have suffered from any side effect, which is absolutely documented. So they are absolutely safe, and everybody and anybody should go ahead with the vaccine as soon as they get a chance to do it.
Right, Doctor, because, at the start of the vaccination drive, at that time, perhaps there was limited information, but now it's been many months across the world. We've had these vaccine drives, and so now we have much more information and data available about the effect of the vaccines.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. See, the side effects, minor side effects have always remained with the vaccines all through. We have been using vaccines for so many years, especially India has been using vaccines for so many years. So, and the risk-benefit ratio far outweighs it. The benefit is far outweighing the risk. So it is absolutely mandatory that we go ahead with the vaccination, because that's the only way, along with the COVID-appropriate behavior, which can end this pandemic and we can go back to our normal lives in the next couple of months.
Right. Another question that people do look up, Doctor, are, because there's so much talk of different vaccines and getting more vaccines in our, bouquet of vaccines that we have so far, is how do mRNA vaccines work?
See, mRNA vaccines work better. Obviously, it's a newer technology, but we have found that it is a very good vaccine. The newer technology has worked. Obviously, there are some question marks about which variant is working, which vaccine is working better against which variant. Obviously, but they can be tweeted. These vaccines can be tweeted very easily. So it is. We have been using influenza vaccines for several years, and every year there used to be a new vaccine which used to come through. Same might hold true with COVID virus or coronavirus vaccines as well. And these mRNA vaccines are new technology with a very good, Moderna and Pfizer have given very good immunity in the Western world at least, and we have hardly seen any serious infections. All my colleagues, all my friends who are in UK and US, we have been in close contact and discussion with each other, and they are really working well as a newer technology.
Right, and Doctor, if we talk about, this talk of booster doses that's taking place in the US and in Israel, we know they're talking of booster doses. Why is that?
See, obviously, to maintain the immunity, quite a few vaccines have required booster doses. This disease, still being in its infancy, requires obviously more follow-up, more studies. But as of right now, people are finding that at least in an immunocompromised or an elderly host or a very young person, maybe you will require booster doses, which will help boost up immunity for a longer time. Obviously, as days go by, as months go by, we'll have more study, more evidence. The Western countries have started giving booster doses. Even Israel started doing it. So I think obviously there is definite evidence that it boosts up the immunity, which might help us fight the disease.
Right. Though the focus in India right now is to get everyone to be vaccinated at least once. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us. Political news now. In elections, Union Minister Amit Shah held a meeting at his residence on Thursday evening to discuss the next year's assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. Besides the State Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, the meeting was attended by BJP Chief JP Nadda, State BJP Chief Swatantra Dev Singh and Organisation General Secretary Sunil Bansal. Sources say besides candidates for the Legislative Council, the leaders discussed expansion of Yogi Adityanath's cabinet and the party organisation in UP. Emphasis was also laid on taking allies along at the meeting, which went on for around 3.5 hours. All of these hot button topics for the party in view of the murmurs against the Chief Minister both within the party as the state elections draw near. Earlier this year, sources said the party was concerned over feedback that it had received from various quarters indicating the Chief Minister's inability to take everyone along. For long, allies have been critical of the Chief Minister's lack of accessibility to MPs and MLAs and the government's handling of the COVID pandemic, which many feared has deeply upset the electorate, brought the differences all out in the open. Now, Congress Chief Sonia Gandhi will meet virtually with opposition leaders at 4:30 p.m. today. Sonia Gandhi has called for this meeting with Pawar, there's Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Stalin, Hemant Soren, the Jharkhand Chief Minister are among all the invitees. And let's go across to Arvind now for more. And Arvind, very interesting. This meeting has been called to really, capitalize on the sort of unity we saw among the opposition in this monsoon session.
Yeah, Gadge, Congress President Sonia Gandhi will be meeting with the like-minded opposition party leaders today, somewhere around 4:30 p.m. This particular meeting will be held virtually. So what we are being told is that Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray and also the NCP Chief Sharad Pawar and also West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and also Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren and also down south DMK leader and also Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin are also part of the invitees for this particular meeting. So this particular meeting will start somewhere around 4:30. What we are being told is that after the meeting, all these leaders will issue a joint statement. That's what our sources are hinting. That particular joint statement will include several issues, current political issues, let it be the farmers' agitation, let it be the fuel price, let it be the Pegasus issue, and also all other issues that the opposition parties will be discussing in this particular meeting will be reflecting in a joint statement, a kind of a resolution that will be passed by the opposition leaders. And what we are also being told that if the pandemic situation permits, then all the opposition party leaders will come together for a physical meeting next month. That particular decision will also be taken in this particular meeting. What our sources are saying is that after the opposition parties came together in the recently concluded monsoon session, the Congress party wants to take forward this particular unity, and that's why they are structuring this entire opposition unity ahead of the 2024 general election. And today will be first step towards that particular direction. If everything goes well, then very soon we might expect all the opposition leaders to come for a physical meeting in Delhi at the residence of Sonia Gandhi soon.
All right, Arvind, thanks so much for joining us with those details, and staying on with other news now, and news from West Bengal with the allegations of rape, murder and crimes against women after the Bengal elections to be probed now by the CBI. That was what the Calcutta High Court said yesterday. The CBI has constituted 4 special investigation units to probe the West Bengal post-poll violence. Each unit consists of 6 officers, a total of 25 officers. Let's go across to Arvind for more details on that. And Arvind, we do know the Calcutta High Court said that the CBI will investigate the rape allegations, etc. And there'll also be another special team of the Bengal police that will look into other criminal cases.
Yeah, yesterday the Calcutta High Court gave a judgment, 5-judge bench consisting of the acting Chief Justice. They gave a judgment saying that all the heinous crimes, let it be the murder and alleged murder and also rape and also sexual assault cases against women, will be probed by the Central Bureau of Investigation, and the remaining cases will be probed by the SIT. And court made it very clear that all these probes will be court-monitored probes, and they have asked both the CBI and also the SIT to submit a status report within 6 months period. So after the Calcutta High Court judgment, our sources in the Central Bureau of Investigation have confirmed to us that the CBI has formed 4 special investigation units to probe all these cases. Though we have not been given how many cases the agency will be taking up from Kolkata, what we are being told is that as on date, 4 special investigation units have been constituted, and all these 4 investigation units will be headed by a joint director. So joint directors, including Anurag, who is currently heading the very important banking and security part, and also joint director Sampath Meena, and also Vinit Vinayak, and also Ramnesh. All these 4 joint directors will be heading 4 special investigation units, and all these 4 special investigation units will have one DIG, the Deputy Inspector General, DIG rank officer in each of these 4 units, and also 1 senior SP and 3 SPs. So all the SPs will be looking after the field investigation that will be supervised by the senior SP and also DIG at the level of joint directors also. So very soon, all the investigating officers will be going to West Bengal to take up the field investigation. On all these 4 special investigation units will be handled by the Additional Director Ajay Bhatnakar. So as I say, after the Calcutta High Court, the agency has taken up the investigation very seriously, and that's why promptly the agency has formed 4 special investigation units, and very soon the field investigation will start in this particular matter.